I'm Andy, and today I'm going to show the use of our 3D printers and demonstrate the skills that you will need to show when you come to do your practical assessment. The first thing you'll need to do is find a printer. We have 6 printers currently. We have 3 ABS printers and 3 PLA printers. Obviously you need to find a printer for the material that you're going to be using. From the printers for your material, some might be in use. If another user is using a printer, you may not stop it unless it's obviously failing. You might find a printer like this one which has still got another user's work in it but is finished, in which case you can remove the print, put it in the finished print box and you can use that printer. Or you might be lucky and find a printer like this one which is completely empty and ready to go. The next thing you'll need to do is get some filament. We keep our filament in boxes underneath the printers. We have separate boxes for the different materials that we supply. You'll need to get the box, select your filament. When opening the box, you should always keep the wire plugged in. That should never need to be removed. And when closing the box again, make sure that both clips are secured. Once you have your filament, you should check for any problems with it. Feel back from the tip of it along the kind of rough area, looking for any marks or areas where the printer's cut filament out. If any of those exist, you can snip off that whole section of filament. Make sure that it's solid all the way to the end. You should also look to check it's definitely coming off the spool nice and cleanly, which this one is. Whenever you're handling filament with a loose end, you should either make sure that the loose end is in your hand, secured firmly on the spool, or is in the printer. The final check we need to do on a filament before we're able to put it in the machine is to make sure it's got a nice pointy end. All the printers have snippers attached, which we can use to snip a pointy end onto the filament. We can now install our filament into the machine. First thing to check is just look where the tube goes into the head of the printer and just look for any score marks. If the tube's not seated properly, you won't be able to load the filament correctly. This one looks fine. Next, we go to the menu and we select Material and Change. The printer doesn't have a load feature, it only has change. So the printer will go through the motions of unloading filament that doesn't exist before it will let us install any filament. Now the printer's unloaded the filament that wasn't there, it prompts us to remove the material. We can click Ready. It then asks us what filament we want to install. We pick the material that we're using. And now we can load the filament. You can hear the motor running slowly. You can pull the printer out on the slider, hang the spool on the back, and offer the filament up to the extruder. You can feel the filament being taken between your fingers up into the printer. Watch the tube where the filament comes out. As you start to see the filament appear, once it's come up more than 1 centimetre but less than about an inch, so about here, you can then press the button again. The printer's now loaded the filament all the way to the head and we'll start to see it come out of the nozzle shortly. Before we push the printer back, it's always a good time to check that the filament is coming off the spool cleanly. If it was tangled round the spool holder like that, that could cause a tangle later on. But if it's coming off cleanly, then we'll get a better print. Back at the front of the printer, we can see the filament coming out of the nozzle. We want to check that it's coming out straight. Sometimes if it goes up before it goes down, that can be a sign that the nozzle is contaminated. We also want to check that it's coming out a good thickness. So you can see that this is coming out about the right thickness. You'll get a feel for it, but if it's coming out too thin, then your print will under extrude and be weak. Once you're happy that the filament's coming out cleanly, you can hit ready and remove the filament from the printer and put it in the bin. This is a good time to check that the print is clean and ready to use. If the nozzle's got any filament stuck to it, or, you can clean it using a dry blue cloth. And if there's any greasy marks on the bed, again you can rub them off with a dry blue cloth. Likewise, as Makespace is quite a dusty environment, the blue cloth will remove dust from the bed too. We insert the SD card into the printer, and because we've just loaded filament, the menu is on the Change Filament menu. We need to go back up to the main menu to select Print. So we select Return, and now Print is an option. We select Print, select our file, and the printer will start printing it. What it's going to do is it's going to heat up the bed to the desired temperature, then it will heat up the nozzle, then it will bring the bed up, bring the nozzle over, extrude a small amount of plastic to prime the nozzle, and then it will print our model. Now our print's cooled down a bit, we can remove it from the printer. You can use any plastic tool to remove the print, or you can use this metal tool. This is the only metal tool you can use in the printers, but it does work really well. You shouldn't use your fingers directly on the bed because they can leave a greasy mark. When using the metal tool, you should keep it parallel to the bed and use it horizontally. It has slightly ramped edges that will get under the print. Now we have our finished print. We must weigh it so that we know how much it will cost. This print's so small it only weighs 0 grams, so it's free. But bigger prints you would have to go and pay on the iZettle for the filament you've used. Now we just need to tidy up the printer, make sure it's as clean as when we found it, or better, and then we're done. I hope you found this video useful. Good luck with your 3D printing.